Hi, Jessie. Welcome to the Genetic Genius podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you as a guest today.
Thank you, Dr. Lulu, for having me.
You're welcome. Before we dive deep into talking about your book, I'd love for you to first let's hear a little background about you, your story, so the listeners can get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So my name is Jessie Asya Kanzer, and I will hold up the galley of the book for those who are watching the video. This is just the galley, as it says, uncorrected proof. But yes, so to start off, I'm an author of a book coming out March 1st called Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing, Healing, Chilling, and Living with the Tao Te Ching. And it shares my story of healing and really coming into my own as a person in this world who happened to be a child refugee. I came to America from the former Soviet Union at age 8. And a lot of my issues started with identity, trying to figure out who I was in the world, where did I belong? And I was born Asya. I changed my name to Jessie because I really wanted to fit in, and we all just yearned for belonging. And I, especially as this refugee kid, really wanted that. So I changed a lot about myself to fit into this society. And later that came to bite me in the behind because I lost bits of myself. And what happened was, when we lose and just disown parts of our identity, that doesn't jive well with our psyche. So eventually,
Right.
so I struggled with depression. I struggled with anxiety. I had an eating disorder for many years. So I really had to figure things out and put myself back together piece by piece. And for me, the Tao Te Ching, which I write about, and Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing, was a really great gateway to understanding a self that goes beyond the labels and the boxes that society puts us in, whether it's a Soviet society, American society, whatever other society you may have been born into. I was able to connect to a self that goes beyond all those labels. And that is how I found my healing and my path forward as a human. And as a joyful person now, as a mom of 2 kids and happily married, I have a good life as a writer and doing other things. But the most important of all of that was my connection with that deeper part of myself. And that is what I hope my readers and your listeners will be able to take from this conversation.
I love that. What a beautiful story, Jessie. And I can't wait to dive deeper into it. It's all about that self journey. And I like how you talked about that identity piece. And I think that's one of the things we're going to definitely dive into today. And when we lose that identity, it disconnects us from our whole body, from that, yes, not only from the emotional point, but from the physical point. And you talked about a little bit of that too in your introduction about that healing we have is in that physical self. If we're disconnected, we can't really relate to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like you're like you said, you're disjointed.
You're disjointed. Right. Totally.
You're disjointed. So
yeah. So I talk a lot about that gut brain connection, and it's similar to that, right? If we have our brain is on its own path, so to speak, and its whole journey on its own. If we're not connected to the rest of the body, we cut ourselves off from connecting to all the other important energy centers and physical centers for sure.
Yeah. And it's what I teach my kids: lies or non-truths or fabrications, which is what happened with me when I was younger. I was trying to be someone acceptable. What happens is those are much harder to keep up right. Than just being your truth, being your authentic self. It's much harder to keep up the mirage that you've built or the facade. And it takes so much of our energy just to keep this creation alive. Whereas a lot of that energy, when we're just being our true selves, can go in to feed ourselves so that we're our best selves. And then we can feed those people, other people in our lives that depend on us. A lot of that is siphoned off to keep the facade alive. So right. It's important to our truth.
Yeah. When we have that image that we're trying to portray to everyone, which is a false image, then it does take that extra energy. It causes a lot of fatigue. And I think that social media and teenagers and the tweens, they're experiencing a lot of that, where they have to have a certain persona for sure.
And some of it is normal. Like as we find our way as teenager tweens and even kids, where we're finding our way in the world, it's normal. It's normal to question, who am I? It's okay.
Right. Yeah.
But what I love is when you keep coming back, I think that the real journey is finding your true self and finding that connection, because when you're being your authentic self, you can't fail.
Exactly. Yeah. And nobody's judging you except for you anyway.
Right. And if they are, that's okay. That's about
Right.
them anyway.
Totally. Okay. So today we're going to be diving deep into also talking a lot about your book, which you mentioned, and then how to perfect this art of doing nothing, which I think is a lot about what your book is about, and how that stillness within creates that healing, which I'm really excited to talk about because I love that aspect. And I really practice that a lot myself and with my patients. But let's dive deep into first. Like you mentioned, the Tao Te Ching is like that basis, that foundation. I'd like for you to just talk about what that is for our listeners, that philosophy, because some people might not,
absolutely.
It's an older book.
Absolutely.
And might not even know that philosophy.
6th century BC. So yes, let's get back. That's a good point. Thank you for bringing that up, because not everybody knows what the Tao Te Ching teaches. And that's absolutely normal and fine. And this is why, by the way, I wrote the book. Don't just sit there, do nothing. Every chapter starts with a verse from the Tao. And then I dissect that verse and put it a little bit into modern day terms for, because listen, not everyone has the time or wants to study an ancient philosophy the way I did. And you don't have to. That's why I did it for you. And you could open the book and get to the point of the message. But I would summarize the Tao Te Ching as it summarizes itself in one of its verses. And it says, the basis of my teachings, simplicity, patience, compassion. And I would add, starting with compassion to yourself. So simplicity, constantly simplifying our goals, our thoughts, our messes. If we could just simplify every day, simplify a little more what it is that we want. For me, I have a book launch going on right now, and that's a lot of like moving pieces, blah, blah. And I always I keep bringing myself back. So what is it? What is the point? What is my intention here? And my intention is to spread this message of simplicity, patience, compassion, which is the basis of the Tao Te Ching. That's it. So when you simplify and you keep coming back to your intention, it makes your life easier. It simplifies all those moving parts around you. And then patience, understanding that we live in an instant gratification kind of world. And patience is about understanding that some of our goals, some of our workings take time. Most of it takes time. And that the timeline isn't our personal timeline. There's a greater energy, greater things at play, and just to surrender to a timeline that may be not under our control. And then the compassion, it starts with compassion to yourself, forgiving yourself constantly, because every day we make mistakes and every day we have slip ups where we don't act exactly like we want. And we're not our best selves 24/7. That we can't be, we're human. So compassion starts with forgiveness of yourself, constant forgiveness, a constant practice of forgiveness and compassion towards yourself. And then it so naturally bleeds out to other people, that compassion, that forgiveness, because when you give it to yourself, it's completely natural for you to give it to others. You let yourself off the hook, you let others off the hook. So that's it. That is right there. Simplicity, patience, compassion is the basis of the Tao Te Ching and my book and my life.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you broke it down so easy, so simple.
Yeah.
Because I think the book is a little complicated.
Yeah.
But
of course.
But I love that you're taking it, those basic philosophies and those three principles, that simplicity, patience, and compassion, and then making it in that modern world, because those are, if we can embody those, our life can be graceful, and easy when we're working from that self place. And so when we're in this place of practicing simplicity and patience and compassion, how do we embrace like the stillness aspect instead of doing, which I think we're in this, I want everything to be done right now world.
And by the way, it's all a practice. Yes, we're practicing simplicity, patience, compassion, but we slip up all the time. I would say sometimes some days are 90-10, 90-10 being 90% of the time I am not in that space that I want to be in. But 10% of the time brings me back. And that's what I want. That's what my book is about. That's why it's called Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing. Is if we can just bring in, even in those crazy busy days, moments of stillness, moments of quieting that outside noise and our own judgments, the judgments of those around us, the judgments of society, just all that messaging, all that external noise. If we take the time to quiet that noise and get still and connect to the power that is greater than us and also within us. It's both. You can, the Tao calls it the Tao. The Tao Te Ching calls it the Tao. You can call it God. You can call it higher self. It really doesn't matter what you call it.
Right.
The source energy that is available to all of us. We just need moments to connect with it. So don't just sit there, do nothing. On very busy days can just mean a few
Breathing.
deep breaths. And you know what? When you take a deep inhale, you realize, oh my God, I have not been breathing deeply all day.
Right. Yeah.
It's just that like really deep breath that connects you back to your core, to your center. But when you do have time, I love meditation. If you have a lot of days, it's 15 minutes, 10 minutes, that's all. And that's fine. 5 minutes is fine. But if you don't have that, or if you don't think you can do that, walk outside and just connecting to nature. And if you don't have time for that, just looking out your window and watching a tree branch sway with the wind and just watching it, how it just flows. It goes with the flow. And you could just take a little bit of that kind of energy into yourself. It's already in you. You just, a lot of times our modern day world distracts us from our own nature, and our own nature does give us everything we need to go with the pace of the world. We get distracted and we get bombarded by messaging that's not our own.
Right. It sounds like we get it in our own way a little bit sometimes.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
We get in our way, and also look, our society,
life
and our modern world, like it teaches us to, we're always supposed to be going and doing and achieving and fixing ourselves. And that's the messaging that we get. We're programmed to be like that. So yes, we get in our own way, but it's not our fault. It's okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like we have to, not have to, but working on a place of being into that reprogramming, of creating that stillness. And it sounds like from those things you just mentioned that it can be really easy. Just like, for instance, we had a snowstorm this weekend, and it was so beautiful to just watch the snow. So peaceful. I find the snow falling, just something about it. It's just like unbelievably peaceful. And I love what you said. You don't have to meditate every day, even though I really think that's a huge way to get into that peaceful place.
Yeah.
But if you don't have time for that, you haven't made the time for it, I guess, then, connecting into nature or looking out the window. I love those things because that really helps us to connect deep into that sense of peace, that stillness that allows us to have more energy to do what our calling is.
Yeah. And I don't subscribe anymore to the all or nothing kind of mentality because look, I also know meditation's great for me. And there are days that I don't do it. There are days, there's the weekend, I have 2 little kids, the weekend, and I get it because I think that when we put more shoulds on top of ourselves, we should all over ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's just, okay. Like then it becomes yet another thing on our task list. And that's not what this is about.
A chore.
We have enough. That's not what don't just sit there, do nothing is about. This whole mentality. It's not about that. It's about finding your own ways to connect with spirit, with higher self, whatever, finding it amidst your busy life. That's the most useful thing that I think that I can relate to people, is that it can be found. Like sometimes I find that my everyday mundane life is the most spiritual part of what I'm doing. It's not even necessarily the meditation, but it's like finding the joy in washing the dishes, finding the joy in like wrangling those children, finding the joy in the everyday little things. That's mindfulness. And what gets us to that is those moments where we connect with something greater than ourselves, with a tree moving outside, or we look up at the sky and take that expansiveness in, or like you said, the snowstorm, which is snow is amazing like that. It's just a blank slate. When we can connect with those elements that are right here all around us all the time, the elements of nature, we can connect with those. And then that reminds us of our own spiritual capability within our everyday life. It's like those little moments of reminders.
Yeah, those little special things that help us to break out of the groove, even though the groove, like you said, it's that kind of, when we're into the groove of the enjoying life and focusing on the things that bring us happiness, it allows us to have a better song playing in the background.
Totally. It shifts our perception. This is why I have exercises in my book, but I prefer to look at them. They're not always exercises as in hard work. Like I call them do your Tao, each section. I think of them as shift. It's just a shift. So I'm not telling you to change your whole life unless you want to. And then there's steps. even big changes are just one step at a time, one little step at a time. And I know I had to change my life in big ways, born in another country. And then I had to overcome a major eating disorder and all of that stuff. Even the changes that we need to make, even those major changes are only done one moment, one choice at a time.
Yeah.
And so what I call my exercise, I call them shifts. It's just a shift in perception. So you still have all those quote unquote annoying things you have to do in your life, but can we bring a different energy to those? Can we find the joy in them, or find the service, or find the spirituality in those?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so true. 100% finding that peace that it ignites this fire within us. That's like this joy, which allows us to have a much better and purposeful life, I think, in general.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Because we all work towards those big things, right? Like the book launch or the baby being born, whatever it is that we work towards.
Big goal.
The big goals, right? The big goals. But all of life actually happens in the everyday, mundane moments. And so I would hate for us, and myself included, to live only for those big goals and to miss the beauty of the mundane that makes up most of our lives.
Right. Love the process. Don't hurry the process, but love the process.
It's like living for a vacation. Of course, vacations are wonderful. Like, of course, weekends are wonderful, but you can't wait all week for that Friday night, miss the gifts of that week. That's what I would hate for us to do, because that's most of our lives.
Or maybe we can switch it around so the weekend is the whole life.
But you know what? And I'm working on that I had a wonderful weekend with my children, and we also had a snowstorm, and I took them skiing. And then Monday morning comes, and my 7-year-old is like, oh, I hate this day already. And it's like, and like, I get it. So I see that's my 7-year-old, and she hasn't, it's our nature. It's our human nature to want to just have enjoyment all the time and to moan when Monday morning comes. I get it. I see it. She's my teacher. I'm like, okay, it is our normal human nature. So how can we just have shifts to turn that around? And I said to her, I was like, the day hasn't even started yet. And you're already like, just have painted this day as a terrible day. Well, can we
shift it around a little bit? Yeah. That's so true. We can easily make a shift when especially in that time when we first wake up, if we're like, have that bad or, thought that's, this is not really the best way I want to live my day. You got to shift it, rewind that tape loop. So
just take a moment.
Right. Take that moment. Totally. And when we're in this, place of peace and stillness, or we're trying to put I think sounds like from your book, like putting little, like you said, little shifts throughout the day, throughout the weeks, to have this stillness then flow throughout the whole time. How do we continue to like really ignite this? I think for listeners that have had a stressful pandemic, or most people have had some after effects or still experiencing things. And how do you, when you're in that place of really deep stress and your body, your adrenal system, that fatigue is setting in, then what do you suggest that in your book that people turn to in that time period?
Sure. I would say take a nap.
Right. Exactly.
like seriously, like sometimes if everything's shutting down, let it. I talk a lot about in the book, my book is divided, and Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing is divided into 3 sections: identity, awareness, creation. Identity is about connecting and figuring out who the hell we are. And I think that we're all on different points in the journey. If you're in a journey where nothing seems to be working, or where you feel so overwhelmed that everything is shutting down, you have to give into that. You have no other choice. You give into that and you start from square one. And listen, I know I've been there. Like I've been on the bathroom floor, just like nothing, like feeling like I'm living for nothing and failing at everything. And I completely empathize with that moment, and I welcome it. What I have learned is sometimes our crisis, our greatest crisis is also our greatest opportunity.
So true.
And in fact, it's easier to create change when everything has gone to shit. It's easier, excuse my language, it's easier to create change when you have no choice left.
Right. Because you can see all the different options, I think, in a different way than
Right. Like
Mhm.
right. Like the pandemic, the gift of the pandemic was that it shifted us out of
Mhm.
our
Comfort zone.
trance, sort of. Yes. Like,
Yeah.
cause we live in a trance. We
Right.
get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we do this, we do that, we go to work, we come back. And so the pandemic shifted all that.
Right.
So the reality has been completely shifted. And that is very difficult. That is, and I'm not even talking about the losses, and we've all had personal losses and
Right.
collective
Losses on all
losses. We're not
different
even,
levels, but gains.
but what I'm talking about is, yes, of course it's difficult when those major shifts happen
Mhm.
because they just knock us out of our routines. But that is an opportunity. So you
Mm.
start when you are completely overwhelmed, you let yourself be, you take care of yourself, you go back to square one of, okay, I'm starting with a blank slate. My book takes folks from identity to awareness to creation. Identity is about having this realization of a greater self that
Mm.
exists in all of us.
Mhm.
And awareness is beginning to get in touch with the energy all around us and the energy we put forth, like I talked about in our everyday lives.
Mhm.
And then creation. The reason I put creation last is because should we really be trying to create when we're a mess, or should we be just taking care of ourselves first? So creation, manifestation, which everyone loves, or what I call manifestation, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And I put that in, and I put hints for that and exercises for that in the last section of the book. But I think that it's important for all of us to understand that we create what we are. We don't
Mhm.
create what we want. We create what we are. So the most important and best thing we can do for ourselves, for our families, for the world, is to take care of ourselves. And if everything's shutting down on you and everything feels so overwhelming, you have to go back to just like survival mode
Right.
of
The
taking care of
foundations.
yourself, surviving and giving yourself a pat on the back for
Mhm.
each day that you complete. And when you're trying to get through really difficult times or getting over really difficult addictions or the
Mhm.
difficult points in our lives,
Right.
you take it one moment at a time and you
Mm.
give yourself a pat on the back for each little accomplishment, each little goal. And even if that accomplishment is just getting through the day.
Yeah, especially when the patients are in that chronic disease state, I see that a lot. It's like we have to really pop the cork on the champagne for even the smallest things, because those smaller things can then lead up to the bigger. You're like, oh my gosh, I forgot that I was so tired I couldn't get out of bed, because now
Yeah.
I'm able to run a 5K. And that's like a big leap, but I'm, just
Yes.
showing
Yes.
that it's like when you do have those little steps through health, through healing, through working through
Yeah.
things, you're able to shift so many different things. And it's like the web all connects together.
And I would also advise people to find the joy in the present wherever
Mhm.
you are. What is the smallest, even if that joy is the softness of your pillow, and you may be going through hell, like you said right now, maybe going through a divorce or through a loss or whatever. What can you find right now in this moment that feeds you and gives you
Mhm.
joy?
Mhm.
And can you just really feel that joy and give yourself more of that?
Mhm. Yeah,
And
it's
you have
true.
to be mindful. You have to be mindful. We're not talking here about emotional eating, because chocolate does make us feel better. We're all adults. We know what's good for us and what's
Right.
not good for us.
Moderation.
Find whatever brings you joy and is also good for you, that feeds you on different levels.
Mhm.
So it feeds your soul, and see how you can bring more of that into your life.
Mm.
And nap.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that goes back to what you were talking about before, having that place of stillness, whether that for me, I'm not a big napper, but I do
Yeah.
meditation and I do that 3 times a day. I like have my morning
Yeah.
routine. And then during
Yeah.
my lunch break, I'll have eat. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have this sitting outside and closing my eyes and having some sunshine to recharge my body, whatever it is. And having those
That's amazing.
little places of
Yep.
recharge throughout the
Yep.
day are so
Yep.
key. And I think when we do that, it really does change, like you're saying, that place of stillness. It allows us to have a different viewpoint.
Yeah. And so you teach what you need to learn.
Right.
So,
Yes, exactly.
so I wrote a book called Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing. I'm also a type A person from the Soviet Union, which was a very achievement-based culture. My grades mattered. They mattered here as an immigrant. Like I was a
Mhm.
straight A student. Like I get it. And I have days where I don't take my own advice and I treat myself like a robot. And I pay for it. Yes. And I pay for it and then I crash and my mood crashes. And then I remember, oh yes, I did not follow my own advice. And nowadays, because I'm so aware, because I do this work all the time, I know when I'm not doing what's best for me. I know
Right.
it and I choose it anyway, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then I have to
the consequence, right?
and the consequence sucks and my mood sucks and I'm so overtired and I still have kids to take care of and all of that. So like, I get it. I pay the price and then I hope that I'll do better tomorrow. And sometimes I'm sure I will mess up again. And so that's what a lot of this is, there's no perfection or no there to reach. So wherever you are on your journey, if you are at the very bottom of like your struggle, that's a beautiful place too. And to understand that all of life is an ebb and flow. There's no getting there. I guess we die one day and I don't know, I can't attest to what comes after that, but there's no there that we're getting to. So every part of the journey is sacred. The biggest messes are sacred.
Right. Yeah. And we don't want to rush through those, even
No.
if they're, like you said, even those challenging times when we look back, if we didn't have that moment, you wouldn't be who you are. That's just like,
Yes,
that,
exactly.
they create every aspect of our life. And I think that sometimes is a hard place for people. Like I was mentioning that, the patients with that chronic disease state, when they're in that place of everything is so difficult, it just seems I'll never be better than this. There's nothing that can shift. And I love that your book is embracing that. It's, if you're trying, maybe just take that step back and let everything flow from that natural water and rhythm.
Yeah. And what my book is also about, why it's called Do Nothing or whatever,
right?
Don't just sit there, do nothing. The whole idea is all of those great changes happen internally anyway. And listen, if you're in a state where you think nothing's working, it's not going to. That's the truth.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
you're manifesting it.
Right. You have to give yourself a break. And then what your work is, it's internal. All of our work, all our greatest work is internal. And if you can start to accept the possibility that things can shift for you, first you accept the possibility, then you start believing in it, then you start seeing things in the outside world, and then that makes it easier for you to believe more. But you're not going to see the changes in the outside world until you can start cultivating the belief inside yourself. So you start small. You start with just opening the space of possibility.
Right. Exactly.
Like, is this, maybe everything's not going to suck forever. And maybe there is a possibility of my healing. Can I just open up a space of possibility? You work with yourself because the reason you can't rush it is our subconscious is so, it's like a machine. Like you can't override it. You can't override it and be like, that's it. I believe it. I believe it. And I'm well. No, you have to move slowly, a little bit at a time, a breath at a time, a day at a time, and start increasing the belief in yourself. If you're shifting from really hating yourself, and I've been there, you're not going to be in love with yourself overnight. It's just little shifts that, hey, maybe I do create my reality. Maybe I can create a little bit differently. Maybe I can start to find what there is to love about me in me. Yeah. Maybe I can be proud of myself for getting through this hardship. And maybe I can open up a space, a belief for this hardship lifting. I think that a lot of times what I've seen, and you can speak to this as well, but I think that a lot of times people become so identified with whatever they're going through.
Labeled, and identity of disease is so common.
So if you struggle, I struggled with bulimia for 7 years. It almost becomes, okay, so I'm this person. You almost lose yourself in the label of eating disorder. And I went to support groups, and what I really saw was that there were some people that were lost to the point of, I don't know where they are. And I hope that they found their way. They may have not, but they were their disease. And when that happens,
100%.
and trying to find your way out of that is very slow. Because you have to, this is where the identity part comes in. That's why we start with identity. Finding your identity beyond all those labels is super important.
So important. I really appreciate that you said that, because it's true. When we and we label ourselves, but then we get labeled sometimes. And
Of
then
course.
we grab onto that as
Yes.
it's like a security blanket. This is what's going to help me get better. But then
Yeah.
it actually backfires because
Yeah.
we embody that whole label, that whole identity, and it's our false identity.
It's not, look, in some ways, all of our identity, I think, look, this is just one spiritual gal's viewpoint, but I think that in some ways, all our labeled identities are false identities.
Right. Yeah. They're just, we strip them off, and then we're this naked being. You're like,
Yeah.
what am I truly? And that's when, like you said, I think that's when the true healing is enabled, when we're like sitting in the middle of a forest naked, just like soaking in all the environment. We're like, nothing is labeling.
And I think that it's hard for a lot of people to let go of the label of the disease or the struggle that they're going through, because if you've been that for that long, or you've been struggling with it for so long, what are you without? And you have to start asking yourself, what is it? It worked for you for a reason. Like, you held on to it for a reason. What have you been getting from being the victim of a disease, the victim, whatever kind of victim? There is a victimization that happens in health crisis and in life crisis. When you're ready to let go of that, it is so empowering to let go of that and to say to yourself, maybe I can be whole. Maybe I'm not sick. Maybe there's a possibility in which I'm not.
So true. And the exercise I do with my patients in the beginning, when I first start seeing them, is I want you to create a vision. It doesn't have to be, but what would it look like if you didn't have this disease state anymore?
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's really a scary place for people to be.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's okay. It might not be the full vision. We're just like talking, or just opening up the door for that new place for you to step into. And if you are like, my friends, I only have this community of people who are like-minded and have the same disease state.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do a different job, or have a new partner or whatever, know, and sometimes it can be such a huge life shift that people don't want to step out of it.
And that's fine too. Listen, it's everyone has a choice, but I really want people to understand that there is choice, even in things that seem, even the things that seem like there's no choice. I get it. Like, certain diseases, people will say, I didn't choose that, but there is a choice in how you identify.
Right. Yes. That's
in identifying with that disease, or identifying, hey, I right now am dealing with this, but I am not it.
Yeah. It's like the circumstance. You can still be part of the circumstance that you created, but you don't have to have the name tag anymore.
Yeah. And it's wonderful when we're able to step outside our own situations and our own messes, whether they're created or they're given to us by by genes, let's say, whatever, or where we're born or whatever. When we're able to step outside of our human turmoil and become the observer, this is why meditation, or just sitting and connecting with breath, or just watching a tree, which is a kind of all one and the same. When we're able to step outside of our human turmoil and become the observer for a few moments or longer, it's such a powerful experience, because then you realize this is just one identification of myself. This is one iteration of me, but there's so much more to me. There's so much more.
Right. Yeah. And if in the quantum timeline, that philosophy is you're living on this particular timeline, you can like jump over to the other timeline.
Yes, exactly.
And how easy can you do that to create your new reality?
Yes, exactly. And it's interesting because scientists have been studying that for a while now. This idea of how can two particles be in one particle, how can one particle be in two different places at the same time?
Right.
How is this possible? And maybe, is it possible that our view of reality is just one view?
Right. I think that's the big new philosophy. Exactly.
Yes.
So with your book, the Do Nothing, Healing, Chilling and Living with the Tao Te Ching, what was the main inspiration from that? Was that just, I know you talked about your story, and is it just, I would love for you to just hit that note. Like, what was the main inspiration? You're like, I got to get this message out there.
That's such a good question. And I don't know if I have the right answer, because what happens is with books like these, I've read like thousands of self-help books. I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah.
Because I was suffering. You too. Listen, I was suffering and I needed something, and I reached out for all of it. And I think I got something from all of them. The Tao Te Ching was very monumental for me because I realized that I kept coming back to it time and time again, because our struggles don't just, one struggle ends, there'll be another one. That's just how so like the Tao Te Ching really helped me in my recovery from my eating disorder. I shouldn't say my, by the way, we have to be careful with language, from an eating disorder. Cause then I'm like, I say my eating disorder, it's mine. I own it again. It's I cradle it. I love it.
Yeah. That moment in time where you were experiencing eating disorder.
Yes. And it was a long time ago, but it's funny because it's such a long time ago that it's such a not a part of my life now. And it's hard to imagine when I go back to it, it was like my whole life.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. I offer that perspective because I think it's important to realize this is just a moment in time. And I had that realization. I had an awakening on the bathroom floor, and I reached for my for my bedside table. I had a Tao Te Ching, I had a tiny copy of the Tao Te Ching, and I started reading the verses and meditating on them, kind of not meditating because I didn't do that then or anything like that, but I would just like walk and think of this verse. And it was very healing for me at that time as I was going through recovery. But then I put it aside and I forgot it. And I was dating and I was an actress and I was living in Hollywood and whatever else. Then I went through, I got married. I had my first child, and I really suffered very much from postpartum depression. It was a very difficult adjustment, and not at all like the way I envisioned it or wanted it to be, like the motherly bliss.
Bed of roses.
Yeah, like it just really sucked for me because I have a history with depression, and it sucked for me because A, I was really suffering, but B, I was really like mad at myself and mad at the situation because that's not how it was supposed to be in my mind. And so the acceptance, the patience, the simplicity that the Tao Te Ching offered again was very healing for me. And I moved through that. And so I realized that I keep coming back to the Tao Te Ching over and over again. Now, I started this book before the pandemic. Why I started it, I really was going with it. It was an impulse that came not from me, but through me. And that's why I really believe in this book, is because it came through me. It moved through me. And I was a writer already. And I was writing for the New York Times, Washington Post, and Wall Street Journal. I was published everywhere at that point as an essayist. And I was writing personal essays, and I was making a point, but I realized that I wanted to use it for something greater. I wanted to use my own stories, my ability to tell these stories, to help people the way I'd been helped. And so I started using the Tao Te Ching, and I would take a verse and I would write an essay about that verse, whether it's from my own life. A lot of these stories come from my own life and my own overcoming, or sometimes it's an observation of what's going on in the world. And I was using the Tao Te Ching as my prompt. And then I would write about the lesson that this each verse, my favorite verses, carried, and offer something moving, something shifting. And then the pandemic started. So I'd been writing the book. I started, and then it just fit in. And I realized, listen, I realized why I was called to write the book before the pandemic started. I realized that the offering of the Tao Te Ching is timeless. Like we said, 6th century BC. And I've been able to bring it through me in a modern, accessible way. And that's what this book is.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because it's just inspiring to have those pieces come together in your story. And also I have a book myself, and it is true. It's like you write the book, but the stuff is coming through you. It's like, it's different. And if listeners, if you haven't written a book out there, or if you have, it is a different experience. It's like I don't know how to describe it. You're just in a different mode. And that information is like, you're unlocking the key in your brain for that information to move out.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. And it's actually a very healing experience for the writer as well, to let that flow.
Finally.
And you know what? I think all creators, and we're all creators in one way or another. I think we're all like that. I had been an artist at one point and I used to paint, and I remember that feeling was similar.
Mhm.
When you're an actor, it's similar. When you're a
Mhm.
mother, it's similar. You have to
Mhm.
sometimes get out of your own way. And
Mhm.
that's how I birthed this book, but that's how we all birth anything. We have to
Right.
eventually, yeah, we have all this knowledge, we have all this information, but eventually we get out of our way.
Exactly. Yeah, if we can just do that, we can make that
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Easy
Easy.
peasy.
So since we are in the month of Valentine's and self-love, and I think you talked a lot about that, would be like a main, like little fun tip from your book about how readers could embrace that feeling of self-love through this month by getting a copy of your book, because it's coming out on March 1st. This is so exciting.
Yes, it's coming out on March 1st. And I love that you brought that up. I have a chapter in my
Oh,
humiliating love story.
oh boy.
So look, I have an addictive personality, as I mentioned. I had a eating, binging addiction, binging, purging addiction. And so then afterwards, I developed a love addiction. And it was so humiliating for quite a while. Idiot. But I say that with love because I didn't know what I was doing.
Right, you're
And
experimenting.
yeah, and I was begging, groveling for love a
Right, we need
lot.
that self-love piece. Yeah.
Yes, and it took me a while to figure out that that all outwardly love of another person starts within.
Mm.
And I will actually read just a little piece of that
Oh yeah, love
exercise
that.
because I think it's so important to treat any relationship or any relationship you want in your life to treat your relationship with yourself as the
Mhm.
primary relationship. That one is so important. So this little do your Tao section at the end of humiliating love story.
Mhm.
When I find myself groveling for love these days, it's mostly with my children. Go away, my little one says matter of factly. If she catches me hovering over her, she plays, Mommy, you're ruining my game, the older one proclaims. Even at their young age, they need space and resent feeling smothered. And they prompt me to give myself the very attention I seek elsewhere. Anytime you realize that you're groveling in any arena, you too can pivot. Instead, fill yourself up on your interests, on nature, on entertainment and beauty available to you in this world. Pull back your earnestness and focus on the treasures you already have within you. Then watch what happens. When I realign my energy, I get all the hugs, affection, and closeness I can stand, and not just from my kids, as will you. Love flows so much more easily once we stop pleading for it, even if the source is different from what we had expected.
Just beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. That's like perfect.
Of course. Yes, pull back your earnestness and give it all to yourself.
Mm.
Everything that, listen, a lot of us have a lot of love to give. That's what I realized as a love addict. It's about, we have this love that overflows. We think that we want it.
Mhm.
We think that we're hungry for love. What we don't realize is we're actually hungry to give it.
Right. The giver and the receiver roles.
We're all one, right? Like we're so,
Mhm.
I want to be loved. I want to be loved. But actually, you have that love to give. And when you turn that around and you start giving it to yourself and caring for yourself and patting yourself on the back and nourishing yourself,
Mm.
watch what happens in the outside world. Trust me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, just perfect. I love that. A wrap up as we're wrapping things up today, because that's the key, I think, in the summary of everything all together, that self-love piece and letting go and really receiving that is such a, like the new thing for 2022, right?
Yeah. Love
okay.
yourself.
Right. Exactly. Love yourself. Okay. So let's talk about where people can find you. But I have one last fun question, and then we'll get
Yes.
link everybody to find your book and find you. And so if you had an unlimited budget right now, what would you do to make the biggest impact on the health and welfare of the planet?
Okay, so if I had an unlimited budget, I would probably give 90% of that away. I'm serious, like 90% of that. I would have to do the research and find the charities. I'm a big animal lover.
Mhm.
I would have to figure out where that money would go.
Mhm.
But I really believe, and the Tao says this, there's a really great verse in the Tao. It says, do you think you can change the world? It cannot be done. The world is perfect as it is. Now, that's really hard for a lot of us to accept
Mhm.
because there's a lot of problems. What I believe in is individual change.
Mhm.
So by me changing and shifting myself, I already am shifting the world, and the same is true for everyone else. So I guess if I had an unlimited budget, I would do more PR for my book. Don't just sit there. And everyone can just get a copy, not because I want to satisfy my ego and not because I want to make money off of it or whatever. Yes, I have kids to send to college, but that's not the point. The point is, honestly, for the biggest shift for the world, if each individual realizes the power they hold within themselves. And then the rest, I would just find a charity to give to, or a bunch of charities.
Right. Oh, that sounds great, Jessie. I love that. That's perfect, because I think that's true. It embodies everything we talked about today, and helping people to find their true purpose and true sense of self and be in that place of self-love. Yeah, that's great. We'll make that happen. Okay. So where can people find you? What your website, follow you? And there's also a little bonus you talked about too. So let's touch base on those.
Absolutely. So my website is Jessie Kanzer, JessieKanzer.com. I'm sure you'll have that link there somewhere. And I'm at Jessie Kanzer on Instagram. All the information of where you can find me, because I'm also on TikTok as the Daily Tao, but all that information's on my website. But the book, Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing's available everywhere. So it's on Amazon, on Bookshop, at the local bookstores, wherever books are sold, it's available.
You can get it. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. And then if they sign up for your email newsletter on your website, they can get some bonus chapters of the book.
Yes. Please do visit my website if you're at all interested in what I talked about today, because you'll get, first of all, you'll get the first 2 chapters for free of Don't Just Sit There, Do Nothing. You'll also get bonus chapters that didn't make it into the book for various reasons. There's word count. I went over the word count. Right. I cut some, but I kept working on them. And so these bonus chapters you can get right now for free. You'll get them when you sign up. Yeah. And I have a free ebook on manifestation. People want to create so much, and I get it. And I put all of that information in a little ebook. So you can get all of that for free when you sign up for my email list.
Great. Oh, I love that. Okay. We'll make sure we put all that in the show notes for everyone to find. And thanks again, Jessie. It's been so fun to talk to you today, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Thank you, Dr. Lulu. It's been just a big pleasure for me today as well to chat with you.
Thank you.